Alright, hello everyone, it's Andy Nolch here with another KR, and this one is all about the definition change of FNs. Floating needles. Apparently the definition was changed in the 90s, and it hasn't resulted in good things. It's actually made Scientology crapper. Now, this definition FN change could have been a part of GAT1, which was released in 1996, or it could have been changed just a bit before that. But apparently David Miscavige changed the definition of FN, and it just it made things a lot harder for people while they were getting trained to pass drills and all that sort of stuff. But also it just made things crappier for the PC, because the PC was struggling to FN. And I knew that when I was getting sec checked about a year and a half ago, I noticed there was lots of moments where it seemed like the auditor was watching the needle for it to FN. It was like a struggle. And then one time I had a session when I was feeling fresh, and I was just flying through the list really easily. So I must have been FNing well that day, right? But I'm just thinking, because of this FN definition change, it just made it a lot harder to get an FN. So that those crappy sessions I was having where I was struggling to FN, it made them go for longer and it made them crappier. So I'm personally not very happy with David Miscavige and him changing this definition of FN, because it's been screwing up people's sessions. Now, this is just a classic example of someone squirreling and screwing up the tech, and it's the biggest squirrel you can think of. You can have someone change an OT level, or you can have them change a process. But changing the definition of FN is just huge. It's huge squirreling. It's just epic. It reaches into everything and just ruins everything. And if you look since the mid-90s, the stats in the church is just... it's just totally shot them down. Wait, is that down from where you are? I don't know. I think it's down from where you are. But it's totally just, man... when I got into Scientology 5 or 6 years ago in the church... there was just barely any Div 6 happening. There was barely any action happening, you know what I mean? It was just like the odd person comes in for a service, and it was just... And still is now. It's just so small in the church, and it's because of changes like this that just ruin the tech. It's ridiculous. But apparently what happened with the FN change is that it made the needle had to go swing up and back 3 times. Right, from this change. So, and also not only that, it also suddenly was it was really strict. So an auditor couldn't make a mistake, and if an auditor accidentally called an FN, they were getting in a lot of trouble. So suddenly the auditors were sent all PTS. So they were sitting there and they were like, oh, I have to get an FN, I better not make a mistake or whatever. So they were scared not to call things FNs. So instead of being in comm with the PC and watching them and enjoying running the process, they were more like looking at the e-meter like a robot, and just instead of using the e-meter to help their sessions, they were using the e-meter to do everything. It's all about the e-meter now, it's just the e-meter, which isn't right. You know what I mean? It's like you look at all these other things like the VGIs and the cogs and all that sort of stuff for the FN. It's not just about the meter if it goes up and back. And it seems like when it comes to FNs, from when I was talking to Max Howry about it, it seems like people FN in different sort of ways, and it's not like you can lay down this specific way that an FN occurs, and this is what the definition of FN is. Because I said to Max Harry, I was like, what's the definition of an FN? And he couldn't even say. He goes, you just learn it and you just know what it is. It's it's hard to just say this is exactly an FN. You know what I mean? But with this change in the mid-90s, David Miscavige said, this is exactly an FN, 3 swings up and back, you know what I mean? And that's just not the case. Because I imagine that with me, when I was having problems FNing the sec check like a year and a half ago that I was talking about, I probably had my own funky way of FNing. You know what I mean? But the auditor had to wait for the three swings up and back, and it just made things difficult. And I noticed actually throughout all my auditing, whenever I was flying routes and all these other things, that it seemed to me that, like, it was always hard. It did always seem like it was hard for me to FN, and I could see how the auditor was like, come on, you know, like you can tell the auditor was thinking, you know, this is a routine, we've got to FN this thing, but damn, Andy's hard to FN, he just doesn't FN well. And I know back years ago I did have some allergy problems, and I was more keyed in general, so I wasn't an FNing person as much. But like, I'm sure I'll be FN much better now. But I imagine that this FN change, this definition of FN change, screwed up my enjoyment of Scientology, and I'm pissed off about it, basically. It's just not right, and it's just apparently squirrel. But at this time, there was a pro metering course that was introduced when there was no such thing as a pro metering course, and apparently people were taking months on it. And if LRH was around, he would just be like, what the hell's going on? Why are people taking forever? Firstly, LRH would be like, why the hell is there a pro metering course? And secondly, he'll go, why the hell are people taking months and months on this pro metering course? And it's because of these literal strict nutsy, like, this whole way of training that was just crazy. You know, LRH has more common sense and just be like, no, just learn F. LRH would be like, learn definition of FN. Okay, cool, that's what an FN is. Do it. Boom, bang. It shouldn't take months, you know? But this squirreling with this pro metering course, like, what the hell's that? And so basically orgs couldn't even graduate trained auditors. This is how ridiculous it was. Like, literally, it was rare, occasionally, really rare, and occasionally a class 5 org would actually completely train an auditor, like up to class 4 or something, and graduate them. But because of all these squirrelings that's going on, because it's not just the definition of FN that was changed, it was like, you know, the pro metering course, and it was these crazy verbatim drills that were released in the mid-90s. Totally robotic, making like an auditor like a robot, you know. People just couldn't graduate these courses. It was just crazy. And I mean, literally, the golden age of tech was the golden age of crap. Like, it really just screwed up everything, right? So that is just outrageous that a class 5 orgs couldn't graduate trained auditors, right? And it seems like with GAT2, things have improved. Although GAT2 probably still is squirrel because it's coming from RTC, because RTC are like the kings of squirreling, right? They cover themselves up as they say they're the group that's protecting the tech, but that's just a lie. That's just a big fat lie. It's like the American military saying we're the military that's protecting America, but they're really going out there and just starting wars and just pissing other countries off. And actually, sorry, the CIA is more of a better example. So the CIA will say we're doing intelligence collecting to protect America and save America. But the CIA is actually going out there and starting wars and actually encouraging wars and actually making things more dangerous for America. And no one can go in and investigate the CIA because it's all secret and closed off. And the RTC is the same. It's all secret and closed off. And you have to have high security to get into it and all that sort of stuff. And they don't have to explain to anyone how they make their changes. It's all just, they can do everything secretive. So they just tell everyone, yeah, we're improving the tech and saving the tech, but they're actually screwing up the tech and squirreling it. But anyway, with GAT2, I actually think it was an improvement in the tech. I honestly think GAT2 improved the tech because GAT1 so badly screwed it up. Like, it was just such a big screw up. So, you know, it's still, GAT2 is still squirreling in that, but I think they improved the tech. And they, a friend of mine who was around for GAT1 and then GAT2, he actually thinks that GAT2 we could FN easier. So maybe the church now have actually changed the definition of FN to something better. And I hope they have. Maybe to what it was originally, I'm not sure. But GAT1 in the mid-90s was a big, big screw-up by changing the definition of an FN. Apparently, an instant read was also changed. The definition of that. So again, just more screwing around with things. And yeah, so and the fact that the auditors were suddenly, you know, there was more videotaping of sessions going on, and there was more pressure on the auditors not to stuff up, and that's you know, that's what made it harder for them to call an FN, because they were paranoid about making a mistake. But if you're an SP and you want to screw up Scientology, the best way to do it would be to screw up the definition of FN and that sort of stuff. Now, of course, you know, the RTC in that and Miscavige in that will say, and it's the same thing that happened to the church happens to in every other element in life. That, like, SPs do the same sort of thing. They say, they come out with a new rule and they go, like, for example, like, they'll record the sessions, right? And they'll say, you know, it's to improve the tech, to make sure nobody's stuffing up and squirreling. It's always got a front of being, oh, these changes and these rules are good. You know what I mean? And because these things happen in governments and all this sort of stuff, they introduce a thing and they go, oh, it's good, it's for this reason. But either intentionally, it's actually to screw things up, or by accident, it just screws things up. So what the video, having the sessions recorded, is it made the auditors scared. It was just like someone was on your back watching you all the time, and it's just bullshit. It's not right. You know what I mean? I don't want someone over the shoulder watching me all the time be like, you make a mistake, blah, 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 and then you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I've been doing stuff up, and it sends you PTS. It's just, the best way is to just leave people alone. And they go, because of SPs, we have to watch and make sure. And it's just like, look, just go out and catch the SPs. They're always only like a 2% of the population. It's small, you know what I mean? You don't need to enforce rules on all of us that screw everything up for all of us, you know? So, you know, I think that's about it. But, you know, if you want more information on this changing of the definition of FN, just look into it and find out about it. It's just one of the many screwings that have gone on in the church, and it's why I'm not a part of the church. And I'm really going to be looking forward to getting audited in the independent field. And do you know what? I'll probably be sitting there in the chair, and instead of thinking, far out, can I just FN already? I'll be thinking, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'll run that process. Because we'll just be running smoothly from each thing to the next thing and doing it and that sort of stuff. And it won't be like, you know, they used to fly rudes on me, and they'll be like, is there a present time problem? Is there a blah, 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 blah? Is there a blah, blah, blah? And then, like, none of them would read. And then they'll be like, okay, we're going to do it again. Is there a blah, 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 blah. And let's put in the suppress buttons. Is blah, 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 is anything being suppressed? Blah, blah, blah. And you tell the auditors thinking, like, I don't know if that's because there was an instant read change or something, but something was not right. You know what I mean? And it was just, it was just hard. Each session was just like, oh, and then like I told you, one day I go in for a session and it's like in the morning or something, about 11 a.m. in the morning, maybe my body's all fresh, and suddenly I whip through all these questions and I FN all this stuff, and it's like, oh, suddenly today I don't have all these overts, whereas on the sec check the day before when we were doing it at 3 p.m, like, it seemed to me that I just kept on getting asked for all these overts, and now suddenly I'm just FNing everything, and it's just like, has the amount of overts I have increased? No. It's no different. It's just that my body was FNing easier that day. And it's just, what the hell's going on, you know? And you people who are tech trained and who are outside of the church probably understood totally what was going on. And I think it's because of the change of the definition of an FN or an instant read. But it's just screwed up. But also, speaking of that topic though, I do recommend, if you're finding you're someone who's who's having difficulties FNing, then just choose a 3-hour period when you're absolutely at your freshest throughout the day, and only get audited in that 3-hour period. And also, you Scientologists, look after your body, because your body is extremely important, especially with these stupid e-meters. You have to FN, you can't use the e-meter unless your body's in really good shape. That's what I noticed anyway. So I think that's it for this this video, and these are the sort. If you just look at the stats, you just see this is what squirreling is. People changing the tech, changing FN, and then someone 20 years later goes to go in session, and they do a session and they struggle to FN, and then they go, Scientology shit, and then they leave and they never come back. Imagine how many people tried introductory auditing in Div 6 and had problems FNing, and then the sessions just went on because of this change of the FN definition, and then just never came back and was like, Scientology tech was shit. I only really stuck with the auditing tech because I read stuff by Hubbard and he sounded really smart. I just knew what he was talking about seemed correct and stuff. But, from my first session, it wasn't like I was like, wow, this Scientology tech really works. It took ages for me to even realize it was working, But I just knew that the information dynamics was correct, and it was good data. Anyway, thanks for listening, and listen to the latest podcast interview with Max Howry, because it's a good interview. It's the longest interview on the podcast so far. So, see you later.